Good morning, my dear students. Welcome to the class on history. Today we are going to begin a new chapter titled as Composite Culture. This is a new chapter that you are going to learn now. So the first topic that you need to remember, what do you mean by the term called composite culture? It means the interaction between Indians and the Turks. Okay. So this is known as Indo-Islamic culture, which means the interaction between Indians and the Turks. The interaction that happened between Indians and the Turks. Out of this particular interaction between Turks and Indians, there emerged something called the Indo-Islamic culture, which is so because of this particular interaction between Indians and the Turks, there emerged something called Indo-Islamic culture. Islamic culture. This particular Indo-Islamic culture is this particular culture that emerged because of the interaction between Indians and the Turks. It was neither Persian nor Indian. This particular culture that emerged was neither Persian nor Indian. It was a fusion. Fusion means it was a collection or mixture of the best elements of these two cultures, that is India and the Islamic. So this is what the term called composite culture, which means because of the interaction between Indians and the Turks, there emerged something called the Indo-Islamic culture. This particular culture was neither Persian nor Indian. It was the fusion. It was a gathering of the best elements of these two cultures. So for this particular Indo-Islamic culture, there are two different phases. This we learned in the previous chapters. Two different phases. The first one is a Sultanate culture. Sultanate phase. Second one is the Mughal phase. These are the two different phases through which this particular Indo-Islamic culture emerged. First one is Sultanate phase, second one is the Mughal phase. And what happened during the Sultanate phase? During the Sultanate phase, what happened was that the emergence of fusion of Indian traditions with the Turkish culture. So it means it was a time of the emergence of Indian and the Turkish culture. The emergence or the coming together of Indian culture or Indian traditions with the Turkish culture. This was the first time the Muslim culture began to enter there. So there is an interaction between Indian traditions and the Turkish culture. What happened during the Mughal phase? During the Mughal phase, there was a consolidation of a composite culture. This was the time during the Mughal phase that this particular composite culture became very solid in our country. This is what you by the term called the composite culture, which means it is interaction between Indian traditions and the Turkish culture, or the interaction between Indian culture and the Turkish culture. And there are two different phases through which it came out. The first one is the Sultanate phase, during which the interaction began to happen, and during the Mughal phase, it became very solid, it became very strong, the interaction between the Turkish and the Indian culture. So that's what the term called a composite culture. Because of the interaction between Indians and the Turks, their traditions, their culture began to be emerged. Interaction happened. So there are two different phases. The first one is the Sultanate phase. Second is the Mughal phase, and during the Sultanate phase, the emergence happened, and during the Mughal phase, what happened was the consolidation of this particular composite culture. And there are four different sources that will tell us something about the composite culture. That's what we are going to learn. The first part of this particular chapter. What are the different sources? There are four of them. First one is Bijak, second one is Guru Granth Sahib, third one is Ajmer Sharif, and fourth one is St. Francis Church. These are the four different sources that we have to tell us that there existed something called a composite culture. The first one that you are going to learn. So there are four of them, and today we will deal with the first one, that is Bijak. And what does it mean? It means a seed book. The meaning of this particular term is a seed book. And what does it contain? It contains the verses or the sentences spoken by Kabir. So remember, it is known as a seed book. It is a gathering of the verses. Verses means the sentences spoken by Kabir. So it is a seed book that contains the verses spoken by, or the gathering of the verses of Kabir. Now let's go through the life of this particular person called Kabir. He was a disciple of a Bhakti saint called Ramananda. He was a disciple of this particular Bhakti saint. Was born in 1398 AD. Soon after his birth, he was abandoned near a tank in Benares. He was abandoned near a tank in Benares. And what happened to him? He was rescued and brought up by a Muslim weaver called Nehru. So he was abandoned near a tank, but he was rescued and brought up by a Muslim weaver called Nehru. And during his childhood, he became acquainted. He became familiar with Hindu and the Muslim religious and philosophical ideas. And what happened? If you want to reform the society, if you want to bring about changes in the society, it can be done only by promoting peace and harmony among different communities. So that was the concept of Kabir. If you want to bring about changes in the society, what are you supposed to do? What you need to do is that you need to promote peace and harmony among different communities. So that's the life about this particular person. Kabir was a disciple of a Bhakti saint, born in 1398. He was abandoned near a tank in Varanasi, in Benares. He was rescued and brought up by a Muslim weaver called Nehru. He became familiar with the Hindu and the Muslim religious and philosophical ideas. And what was his concept? His concept was that if you want to reform the society, if you want to bring about changes in the society, it can be done only by promoting peace and harmony among different communities. And Kabir was an oral poet, which means he did not write down his poets, and all his works were written by other people. Since he was an oral poet means he does not write down the poems or write down the things that he has in his mind. He just speaks out the things, and all his works were written by other people. And now come to this particular book called Bijak, was preserved by his followers in Varanasi. The book called Bijak was preserved by Kabir Pandis in Varanasi, and this particular Bijak has got 3 sections. It has got 3 important sections. The first one is Sakhi. That's the first one. Second one is Ramini. There is second. And third one is Sam. And third one is Sabda. Sakhi is the first one. Ramini is the second one. Sabda is the third one. Besides these three, it has got a fourth section that contains all the folk song. Okay, that will come to later. So come to the first one, that is Saki. It is in a doha or couplet form. Saki was written in doha or couplet form, means a pair of lines. That's how this first section contains the things. Those things are written in a pair of lines. Come to the second, Ramayana was written in a chaupe meter. Was written in a chaupe meter. It is based upon the musical raga. This particular Ramayana is written in a based on the musical raga, and it is very descriptive and lengthy in character. Very descriptive and lengthy. Descriptive and lengthy. So the first one is a couplet form, pair of lines. Second, it is written in chaupe meter, based on the musical raga. It is descriptive and lengthy in character. And Sabda is the loosest form. Loosest form, and this is in the popular song form. Okay, since it is in popular song form, it is altered from region to region. It means the sabda, the popular songs are different from one area to the other. So these are the three different sections that Vijay has. The first one is Saki, which means doha or couplet form, the pair of lines. Second, Ramayana written in chaupe meter, based on the musical raga. It is descriptive and lengthy in character. Third one is Sabda, which is in the loosest form, which means it is a popular song form, and it is altered, which means it is changed from region to region. And the fourth section, there are three other, besides three, there is a fourth one, and the fourth one contains of the folk song. So in reality, there are four different sections. It has got four different sections. First one is Saki, second one is Ramayana, third one is the Sabda, and fourth one, the section that contains the folk songs. Now, what are the teachings of Akbar according to Vijay? What are the teachings that he always upholds? The first one, there is only one God. I hope it is clear for you. Saki, Ramayana, Sabda, the fourth one that contains the folk songs. Now let's see about the different teachings of what are the different teachings of Kabir according to Vijay. First one, there is only one God. If you are a believer, there has to be only one God. And how can you attain salvation? If you want to attain salvation, there are two things that you need to do. First one is devotion to God. If you are devoted to God, you can attain salvation. First one is devotion to God. Second one, it depends on your good actions. These are the two means to attain salvation. Third one, to reach God. If you are to reach God, you have to be free from three things: insincerity, dishonesty, and hypocrisy. If you want to reach God, you will have to be free from dishonesty, insincerity, hypocrisy. Hypocrisy means pretending to be someone else. And fourth one, all people are equal before God. There is no difference among the human beings. All are equal before God. And there is no caste distinctions, no caste differences, and there is no supremacy of a priestly class. Okay, and as soon as you have to denounce, which means you will have to give up idol worship, which means you will have to stop, you will have to give up idol worship, empty rituals, meaningless ceremonies, and pilgrimages to holy places. And these are the 6 different teachings of Kabir according to Bijak. First, there is only one God, and how can you attain salvation? By having 2 things: one, devotion to God, and good actions. And if you want to reach God, you'll have to be free from dishonesty, insincerity, and hypocrisy. All human beings are equal before God. There are no caste distinctions and supremacy of priestly class. You will have to denounce, you will have to give up idol worship, empty rituals, meaningless ceremonies, and pilgrimages to holy places. And all his compositions of Kabir, that's of a simple style composition. Simple style composition. That's what he always did. Simple style composition. And he wanted to stop, which means he wanted to bring an end to the following things. The first one, delusions. Delusions of the people. Second one is a pretension, pretending to be someone else, pretensions. And third one is the orthodox views. These are the three things that he wanted to stop, or he wanted to bring an end to it. So this is the first source of composite culture. So these are the 2 things that we have learned today. The meaning of the term called composite culture. Second, the first source of the composite culture, that is the Bijak. It is a seed book that contains the verses of Kabir. We learned about his life, the 4 different sections of this particular book, and the teachings of Kabir. Hope it is clear for you. Can you go through the video once again along with the notes, so that it will be easy for you to understand. Thank you.